Looking ahead to tomorrow, April 2nd, 2025, will go down as one of the most important days in modern American history. Our country has been one of the most open economies in the world, and we have the consumer base hands down, the best consumer base. But too many foreign countries have their markets closed to our exports. This is fundamentally unfair. The lack of reciprocity contributes to our large and persistent annual trade deficit that's gutted our industries and hollowed out key workforces. But those days of America, beginning tomorrow, being ripped off are over. American workers and businesses will be put first under President Trump, just as he promised on the campaign trail. The president's historic action tomorrow will improve American competitiveness in every area of industry, reduce our massive trade deficits, and ultimately protect our economic and national security. President Trump's economic vision is rooted in common sense. America will offer companies the lowest taxes, energy costs, regulations, if they make their products right here in the United States and hire American workers for the job. It's simple. If you make your product in America, you will pay no tariffs.
If you haven't been paying attention, then it's time to wake up because we may be in for some serious volatility, folks. Tomorrow, markets may be in for a rude awakening as the Trump admin calls it Liberation Day and plans to impose reciprocal tariffs internationally in virtually every single industry. So has the market already priced this day in, or will things get worse? And what will cause the next major flash crash? Or are markets ready to start rallying to the upside again now that all of this stuff has already been in the news, making its cycles, and all of the cryptos are virtually down upwards of 25 to 70% from their all-time highs? So I'll be sure to cover all of that in this video. However, it's important to remember that XRP has outperformed virtually every other major market cap crypto and is currently still up 310% from the lows right before the election on November 5th. And that's not all. It's been gaining in market dominance against the second largest crypto, Ethereum, currently up 522% relative to Ethereum. In other words, if you were holding Ethereum and sold it for XRP, you'd be far more up right now. This makes XRP likely the only contender to be able to flip Ethereum and take spot number 2 in terms of total market cap, sitting at currently $227 billion, which is really low for Ethereum in a bull market, while XRP is over half the size of Ethereum now. So if you're up right now because you're an XRP holder, congrats. Still, it's no fun to watch XRP do much of nothing over the last 121 days in a range and dump from that all-time high down to a current price of $2.10. And this is where people are confused, getting impatient, getting annoyed, and you can even see it in the viewership in the comments as Wall Street Bets recently tweeted, Ripple spent 4 years slapping the SEC with legal briefs, finally settles, sets a precedent for crypto regulation, and XRP rewards them by moving like it's stuck in molasses. So aside from a spot ETF, what other major catalysts are there? Well, on April 9th, crypto markets have something to look forward to when Congress is set to hold a hearing on crypto market legislation, which should be bullish because it's going to provide investors with more certainty and clarity around the future of crypto in the United States. XRP being one of the largest players will likely continue to dominate the market. Still, we're getting dangerously close to May. As the old saying goes, sell in May and look away. And although April has tended to do well, so far the start of the month hasn't been that strong, as another key macro indicator we will be sharing shows that international players in the bond market may be running for the hills on risky or more volatile assets. Then in May, the FTX creditors are set to make another payout that could absolutely hammer markets into the dirt. And it's not the most exciting news, I get it, but I'd be a fool and misleading to not at least share this information so you're prepared. So as a note, I understand many people watching this video may hate on me for sharing, bearish news. But would they rather I intentionally ignore all bad news all the time, only to get a bullish dopamine hit and then still watch markets sell off and then complain later and say, well, why didn't you tell us this? So the reality is, I don't know what's going to happen. Nobody does. I'm just doing my best job at analyzing current market situations and events and trying to stay ahead of it so I can manage my positions and portfolio properly and then share that with you guys. So stay tuned, because we have loads to cover, folks, alongside the price action. And as always, even if you're not feeling too bullish, but if you're feeling blessed, comment 777. And if you're going to be the wealthiest person in your family tree, smash the subscribe button. Hello and welcome back to the channel, my friend. If you're new here, my name is Paul, and you can find me on Twitter or X at PauliDeFi, PauliDeFi. So really quickly, I'm going to cover the price action on XRP, and we're not going to do the entire chart right now. We probably will get into that just a little bit after we get some news in, but I do want to explain that right now we officially have a monthly close. So if I come over here to the M and click on that bad boy, you can see that this is the monthly chart on Bitstamp with XRP. This goes back to 2013, so we have quite a bit of history and time on the chart here. And as you can see here, our previous all-time high in terms of an actual close came in right around here, December of 2017, for about $2.10. And you can see that the price action on XRP back in 2021 pumped really hard with far more money in terms of actual volume here. And this is because it was inflationary, right? More and more tokens were hitting the market. It required more money to pump the price, and the price actually didn't pump as high as $3 and something cents right back here. Instead, our all-time high in 2021 came in at just under $2. Since that point in time, we saw one of the gnarliest and most insane and impressive months in XRP, again back up to the previous range high from 2021. We saw another move for a couple of months to the local or actual all-time high of 340 on the US dollar in US-based exchanges and not Korea against their money. Since that point in time, we've actually seen 2 months of downside. We have seen some support at the $2 range, and we will dive into the daily time frame. But I will be honest with you, things aren't looking too hot. So yes, although we were supported right here at the $1.95 to $2 range, you can see that not only for the first month we saw some pretty insane volatility and a breakdown and a failure to break for new highs, but the following month, and we're talking March, not only did the price pump right back up to about $3 on the Trump news and pump, but we actually were sold off really hard into that move, and now we're starting off the month pretty weak from a daily time frame. So that said, this does not lead me to believe that we are done putting in any lows so far. Now, what is positive is from the monthly time frame, we also failed to break lower below this $1.70 range. However, I would like to see a newer local high sometime on a daily time frame as the month continues along. But as the month continues chugging along and we don't start to put in some new local highs, things are going to get a bit more dangerous, because we're moving into May. Historically, a terrible month for crypto. As the old saying goes, sell in May and look away. And that's because it's right before the summer, where fund managers literally just sell a lot of their positions and get out of the markets altogether and go on family vacations, because historically you don't make money in the summers in markets, and that includes crypto if anyone's been around long enough. However, if you want to learn how to do technical analysis like a pro, that is something that I offer specifically for our Altcoin Pro University members. And again, we have a ton of people that are paying to be here, because not only do we have courses, professional researchers and analysts that are constantly sharing alpha, whether it's altcoin picks or airdrop alerts. Like, for example, 4 hours ago, Curious J, one of our analysts, shared a last-minute airdrop opportunity, and this is something that you could potentially miss out on, considering it is time sensitive if you're not involved inside of this community. Now, this might look and feel a bit confusing, but we provide all the right tools, courses, and education to take advantage of this type of stuff. And yes, it's free money. And yes, we have tons of people getting free money in terms of crypto and airdrops. But that's not all. You can also put your crypto to work for you by taking advantage of any DeFi yields. And that's, again, stuff that we offer inside of this platform. But if you're excited and want to hop into live calls with me where I actually can answer questions or help you to understand more about what you're looking at when it comes to TA, technical analysis, then when you get started with Altcoin Pro University by going to bullrunners.com, link is in the description below. We have tons of reviews like this from Christian where he said that when he started in crypto and signed up for way too many exchanges, it was quite overwhelming without any actual tutors. Yes, you can watch YouTube videos. Most are always outdated, but then he began to see some significant differences between the content on each exchange, and he just couldn't put his finger on them and why it was important. But then he watched one of our replays of a live call that I did very recently and said that it was a game changer for him. He's super excited about it, and now he's hooked on Altcoin Pro. In other words, you might be missing out if you don't at least check it out. And you can do that by going to bullrunners.com. Link is in the description below. Now let's get back into the video. Now, last week in one of our calls, we'd mentioned how the reciprocal tariff trade war would create a bit of panic moving into the upcoming weeks in the market. And so far it has, as the S&P 500 continued to sell off. And the reason, again, this matters if you're new to crypto or just generally new to the channel is because the S&P 500, being an index of stocks, trades very similarly to crypto because those are also considered risk on assets by anyone with a lot of money or institutional players. And you have to understand that these players don't really care whether the markets go up or down. What they care is to trade with the trend in the market, because even if they go short, they can make a lot of money when the market dumps. That said, the market did sell off about 10%, which is quite a nasty dump when we're talking major indexes. Then we saw a bit of a relief rally, another sell-off at 5,700 for a potential double bottom. And what we're looking at is a potential relief rally on this double bottom. We could get a new higher low somewhere above this 5,700 range, which would take crypto up. And so far we've seen that, right? Bitcoin dumped to 81,000 and pumped to 85,000. Then we saw XRP dump to $2, pump to about 220, but now see a double top right here. And so things are not looking too great for the majority of the markets, as all of these markets, again, trade risk on. The only market that I've seen do extremely well, and yes, there are plenty of markets that probably are, and random individual cryptos or stocks, but I'm talking about the general whole, has been really gold. Into all of this major volatility and the uncertainty surrounding Trump and April 2nd, Liberation Day, people have been buying up gold in the droves. And just over a month ago, gold has now climbed or rallied about 10.5%. While at the same time, just today, the 3-month government bond yield pumped hard from about 4.3% up to 4.8% and then dumped yet again. But this type of volatility on a 3-month bond leads me to believe that markets and participants who hold government debt are getting pretty skittish at a 3-month time frame and potentially know something is coming that we don't. But this really hasn't been fun for crypto markets and market participants, as this is the first major deviation after a halving we've ever seen in the crypto market relative to what typically happens in the months of March and April, which are really bullish. And as you can see in past market cycles, Bitcoin rallies really hard in this time frame, whereas right now in this little circled area, Bitcoin is down relative to what it normally does, and that's also pulled the rest of the crypto market down. And so one of those major events that could cause a bit of a flash crash, if we're not going to see it within the next month, would be FTX repaying paying major creditors or people with crypto by May 30th using $11.4 billion. However, and here is the key point I'm trying to make. Notice that it says cash reserves, but I've already seen a lot of bearish news surrounding this because people might misinterpret it and think that they're getting paid out in crypto. And I guarantee a lot of misinformation will be rolling and making its runs through X and Twitter throughout the upcoming month, saying creditors are getting paid on FTX and blah, blah, blah. And this alone could create a lot of panic in the markets or cause people to sell their positions preemptively without the proper information. And that happens more often than you would think. So when you combine that with any potential negative news or any more downside or XRP touching that $2 range again, things could get pretty hairy for the crypto market. However, we might actually be in for a relatively positive month, and that's where I'm not too sure, as the US House of Representatives hold a hearing on cryptocurrency market structure legislation April 9th. So maybe we see a bit of a rally in crypto markets into April 9th, but if we don't, okay, that would be a tell that none of this actually matters for market participants, market makers, people with money, and ultimately we would normally see a lot of bullish price action into something like this. But if we don't, again, that is a strong indicator. Even when you have someone like Eric Trump, and this is directly from the Bull Runners HQ Twitter account, recently went on Fox News and shared one of the most cool and bullish things we've heard in a long time. Let's have a listen.
And that's what opened my eyes. I mean, I'm a hard asset guy. My entire life has been building real, hotels, golf courses, real estate buildings, right? Commercial buildings, etc. That's what I've done. If there's anybody's eyes who shouldn't have been open to the world of cryptocurrency, it was mine, other than I realized the power that these banks had, and I realized how they were exerting that power, and they were canceling businesses all over our country. It was political. It was forced. They were targeting people that they didn't like. It wasn't fair. And then you realize that there's not a single thing that those banks do that can't be done better, cheaper, more efficiently, faster on blockchain. I mean, why is it that the modern financial system runs 9 to 5 Monday through Friday? Why is it, Maria, that if you want to go get a loan and you've been banking with a certain bank for 30 years, it would probably take you 100 days to go do it, and you'd be filling out antiquated paper forms? It doesn't make sense, right? And again, yeah. That's why I fell in love with crypto, and I truly believe that Bitcoin is one of the greatest stores of value. Immediately liquid, an unbelievable hedge against real estate, and something we're really excited about.
So yes, although I do agree with Eric Trump on that statement, and he's made some pretty terrible calls and plays on X and Twitter, at the end of the day, I do believe there is a bright future for the technology in crypto, and just generally long-term speaking, that most of these major cryptos are going to be up, and that would include XRP. But as things stand, we are still in a technical intermediate term downtrend with a pretty nasty bear trap right here, bull trap, where people were led to believe they should be bullish, and then the market sold off right below this range here. And I was actually on one of our technical calls where many members were asking, should we be buying right here considering we're back in that range? And I said, I'd like to see a new higher high above 260 before I enter. And I'm glad I did, because at the end of the day, I'm still sitting on cash and just waiting for something to happen. Now, with that said, from a daily time frame, if we come right back into this range again one last time, things are not going to be looking good from the $1.95 range up to the $2 range. I think this range right here is our major support. If we break down from there, not only are we likely going to at least 150 to 140, but any major volatility type of an event or situation or a black swan or a flash crash, things would go further and harder, considering this would be a textbook head and shoulders. And so it's really important to just manage your risk properly. I'm not saying you should sell your entire position, but this is exactly what I'm seeing on the chart, that no amount of current bullish news has actually pushed XRP up for some new range highs above the $3 range, above the 260 range, and we're consistently seeing sell pressure right back down to the $2 range. Then when you take those EMAs, and we're talking the 10 and 20, not only are we bouncing in between them, but consistently we're seeing bearishness, right? We had one slight crossover right here, only for it to fail and break back down. That 20 EMA being the bigger moving average, or the orange line, the 10 EMA being the blue moving average, which is a faster moving average. And whenever the blue one is below the orange one, right, and the price is below both, into a support that has been touched so many times, it's far more likely we'll get slammed down. So I don't even care if we pump back up to 225. This is not something that I'm really too excited about entering in. And arguably from the hourly time frame, if I go ahead and pull those EMAs off, you can see that we have a technical double top right here at about $2.20. And so we saw a sell-off here, we saw a sell-off here. We're seeing failure to break out on a higher time frame or a longer term time frame. Even with this pretty nice little move on volume right here, we were again yet sold off right below the range low right here, which leads me to believe that this right here was a sucker's rally. And so I'm just playing very cautious, and I do expect at some point in time for us to either break down here, or I would like for us to break above the $2.50 to 60 cent range in order for me to feel far more confident that the move is ready to start going to the upside. As things stand, I'm not too happy with the chart. And so I'm just being very, very cautious. Again, I have multiple different portfolios. And so from a long-term perspective, if we're talking 5 to 10 years out, right, I'm just dollar cost averaging over time. If we're talking a swing trade perspective, right, I've taken all of my profits in this range and I'm officially out. And I mean it. I'm sitting on cash with the money that I actually trade more regularly. So that's where I'm at. That doesn't mean that's where you have to be at. That's just what I'm doing with my portfolio. So that said, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to subscribe to the channel and also check out Altcoin Pro University. Every single day you wait is another day that you could potentially be missing out on some sort of alpha or learning how to protect your assets in your portfolio or manage them into this next wave and situation that we're going into, which is May and the summer. So thanks so much for watching. I appreciate your time. Head on down to bullrunners.com. Link is in the description below, and goodbye.